All right, welcome back to another video in the complete web dev series. This is a supplemental or optional video, but I highly recommend that you go through this video for security purposes. I did have a request from a user to explain the dangers of the security with storing stuff in your source code that shouldn't be there. And so let me just go ahead and create. Let me go to my camera real quick. And what I'd like to do is just explain to you the problem that we have with our current application. And then we will, in this video, solve that, okay? And it won't be that hard, but it will be a little bit to do. So let me go ahead. Actually, you know what? I'm going to pause the video for a second and clean something up, and I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. So the problem is, let's go and open up core and go to config.php. Now config.php right now, there really aren't any security risk here because this is only going to work on our local server. There could be a security risk possibly with this cookie name, but basically what happens is this config.php file gets put in your source code. So when you add your code base to GitHub, your source code contains sensitive information in it. So what could this sensitive information be? Well, first and foremost, it could be your database information. So on a live server, you're going to have your live host, your database name, your user, and your password right here in plain text. And the problem with this is that you could, in fact, expose information to about your database, your live database, to any potential amount of people. So first of all, if it's a public repository, then it'd be exposed to the entire world. And so if people would search your code on a public repository, like mine is now for this example, and I had live database information in here, they could just log into my database freely and take any information in it that they want, or just destroy it. So this is a huge security threat. The other way that this could be a security threat is if it's private. Well, then if someone gains access to your GitHub account through some sort of brute force login attack or something like that, where they gained access to your source code, that would be bad. But if there wasn't any information in your source code about your database or any sort of API keys or anything like that, it's not quite as bad. So then your source code's compromised, but not your database, not your Stripe accounts or your gateway accounts or anything like that. And so it's important for us to not store sensitive information. The other way that this would be compromised would be, let's say you work in a company or you hire another developer and you give them access to your source code. Well, you may not know this developer or anything like that, and you don't want this developer to have access to your database credentials or anything on the live server. And so having that stuff stored in this config is very dangerous. The other problem with doing our config this way is if I go now and want to put this on a live server, I first have to update these credentials so that it works on a live server. And then when I go to use it on my dev box, I'm going to have to change this all back to my local stuff so that I'm connecting to my local database and not my live database. So that's another problem with this. And so we can solve all of these issues using what is known as environment variables. And an environment variable, what it's going to do is it's going to store these values in the server only, so it won't be in a file that is accessible on GitHub or anything like that. Now, this information is already compromised even after we remove this, because this is in GitHub and people can look through the history and see this information. So if you've already pushed sensitive information to GitHub, you should fix it, but it's kind of too late, and you may have to do something like wipe out your history on GitHub to stop people from going back and getting any sort of API keys that you put in here or other sensitive data. But if you haven't pushed anything sensitive yet, you're safe still. And in our case, we are safe because this is all local information. I don't have anything in here yet that's real sensitive. And so what we're going to be able to do is add an environment file only on our server okay, that won't be in our GitHub repo. And so when we have other developers work into it, or if someone hacks into our GitHub account, they're not going to see any of these credentials, okay? So the way that we're going to do this is a couple things. First and foremost, I'm going to create a new branch. So I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to do a git checkout-b v37, because this is the 37th video, and I'm going to do a git push set upstream, and I'm going to set this upstream to origin v37. Once I've done that, we are on a new branch. Now the first thing that I want to do here is I'm actually going to do something where we're going to add in our root of our folder here. Let's go ahead and click on the root, and I'm going to add a new file, and this new file is going to be called .getignore. This getignore file is going to allow me to add files or folders into this getignore file, and when I do my git push or anything like that, it will ignore those files and it will not add anything in to my git repo that I put into this getignore. So it won't update or add these, okay? So keep in mind that what we're going to be doing is going to be a local file only, and we can give an example of this local file to new developers and they can put their information in it, but it won't have our live copy. So what I'm going to add in here, and it's important that we add this first so we don't have to go back and change anything, but I'm going to add .env in here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually do a .env.star. Okay, and then I'm going to save this. And what this is going to do is any files that start with .env are going to be ignored by Git and won't be added to the repo. And any files that start with .env.star, so it could be .env.local, .env.dev, or live, or anything like that, will also be ignored. And so I don't need anything else. So I'm going to close this getignore. And now in this root directory here, I'm going to right click and add a new file. And we are going to add a .env file. Now this .env file, you can see it's kind of grayed out. And in VS Code, it's grayed out because it is get ignored. So it was important to add the get ignore first. And because we did that, we no longer have to worry about this going to GitHub. Now the next thing that we want to do is we're going to use a package so we're going to have this config open here, and then we're going to have this open. And then what we're going to do is we're going to actually use a library to load everything that's in this .env file into the environment variables on the server. And then we're going to modify our config to remove these specific values out of the config and load them directly from the .env. So what we're going to do here is let's go to a browser and let's go to GitHub.com, and up here go to search GitHub, and I want you to search for .env. And once you do that, scroll down until you find the symfony/.env. We're going to use that package. So load symfony.env. Now this is a composer file. We could use composer to install this. We could also git clone this, but to make this simple on us so we don't have to do anything weird or install anything else, we're just going to go ahead and download the zip file. This is going to download this entire package from GitHub, and I'm going to go ahead and close this. And then what I'm going to do is let's go back here, and I'm going to open up my file manager, and I'm going to go to my downloads. And I have this .env 5.3.zip loaded right here. So I'm going to right click on that and I'm going to hit extract here to extract that to a folder. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open my file system in a new window. Then what I'm going to do is go to opt lamp. So you're going to navigate to your htdocs directory, and then go to your project that you're currently working on. And in here, I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call this folder lib, okay, short for library. And I'm going to go inside of that, and I'm going to create a new folder in there, and I'm going to call this .env. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this .env for my downloads, and I don't need everything out of here. I don't need the composer, or there's some hidden files in here. I don't need that. All I need is this .env.php file. So I'm going to drag that in. And I'm going to drag this exception directory in as well. Once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and close this. I don't need that anymore. I'm going to close this. If we look in our Explorer here, we have lib and we have .env, and inside there we have our exception directory that has some classes, and we have our .env.php. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to load this into our project, this .env.php. And if you look in the GitHub in the README file, they have some instructions here on how to do this, and there's a few different ways to load it. But what we're going to do is we're going to just manually require this .env or .env.php file in. So open up the index.php, and we're going to do this after our autoloader runs, and we're going to go right here. Yeah, we're going to go right here, I think, right above this root directory where we're defining that. And we're going to put a comment here, and we'll say load.env file. So one thing we can do here is we're going to say require once, and you know what? I've decided against this. Let's add this require once up here above our autoload function. Yeah, that's what I want to do. Right here, we're going to say require once, and for the require here, we're going to require in our project root constant .ds dot, and then we're going to do some single quotes here, and we are going to go into our lib /env/.env.php. So that'll load this in. The next thing that we're going to do is up here, we're going to say, we're going to get this use statement from right here in GitHub. So I'm going to copy that, and we'll paste it right here so that it uses the correct namespace for .env. We got it required in here, and then right here we're going to load it. So what we're going to do here is say .env equals, and then new .env class, and then we're just going to run the .env load function, and we are going to load .env. Now you can load multiple files, or in fact you can use this here, and it will load the .locals and everything, but for now I'm just going to use the .env. And so we're going to have to add the rest of the path here. So in this load here, we're going to say load proot .ds dot, and then it's going to load the .env after that. So let's go back to our index here and refresh, okay, and we don't have any errors, so it's looking good so far, I think. The next thing that we want to do now is let's just see if this works. Go to your .env file, and let's do works equals, and then we're going to say yes, like this. So this is the syntax. It's real simple. So we're setting an environment variable called works and equal to yes. So to see if this works, go back to your index.php, and after we load this env here, let's just go ahead and do h dump and die, and we're going to dump and die our env super global variable like that. So if I refresh now, you can get the array, and you can see that we have this works set to yes inside of there. So we know that if this comes up, if this happens and you have these in here, then you know that this .env file is being loaded and the variables are coming into the variable, the environment variable super global. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this, and we're going to do something a lot more interesting. So I'm going to right click here, and I'm going to split right just to add this over here, and then I'm going to pull up my config file right here, and we're going to start updating this env file to add our information for our that's going to need to be changed and any sensitive information in here. So the one that I'm going to add first is we're going to do our root directory. And this one isn't really sensitive information. However, this is something that's different between the live server and the local server. So the live version of this .env file is just going to have a /, but this one is going to have this so it works with our local environment. Once I've done that, I can actually just remove this whole line from this config array up here. But in order for this to work, if I save this now, let me go back here and save. If I refresh on the index, and hang on, let's go back to the index page. I'm going to remove this dump and die. We'll save that. And if I refresh, we're going to have an error message, okay? And that's now it's looking for the CMS, meaning it's not loading this correctly. And the reason is because in our config, we've just removed that from this and we're not handling it here. So in order for this to work, what we're going to do is above the return here in the static get function, what we want to do here is we want to check if array key exists. We're going to look for key, and we're going to look for it in the $_env superglobal. If that exists, then we're going to return $_env key, just like that. And then we'll save that. And now if I go back and refresh, this should work. Okay, so if this works now, at this point, we are safe to start moving our information over from the config, any sensitive information, to this .env file. And we could move it all if we want, but I'm going to start with, let's just start with some of the sensitive stuff. I want to go ahead and move the DB host, and in this case it is 127.0.0.1. I'm going to move the DB name, which is going to be root for me on examp. We'll do DB user, and the user is root, and the name is actually CMS. That's the name of my database here. And then we're going to do DB password, and that's an empty string. And then, you know what, let's just go ahead and also load our login cookie name here, and we'll set that equal to this, and you can make yours different or whatever. So I'm going to copy that and paste it right there. And then I'm going to remove all of the things here from this file that we just added. So all the DB information and the login cookie we've removed. There we go. So now these things right here are going to be shared between our local environment and the live environment. And these things are not sensitive information. So I've moved all stuff that's not shared between our local environment and the live environments. And it may not even be shared between my local development machine and another developer's machine. So that solves that information. And also the database information is sensitive information. And any sort of API keys that we had, say to our Stripe accounts or our PayPal accounts or any other API keys, we would want to put in this .env. So let's go back now and just roughly check our site and make sure it works. And of course it doesn't, dang it. And let's see why this isn't working. No such file or directory. So we have a problem. htdocs on our database line 26. Let's see what's on that database line 26 here. Oh, that's being thrown on that line. No such file or directory. db host, db name, db user, db host, db name, db user. I'm going to move this over here so that I can compare these. db name, db underscore host, db underscore user, db underscore password, CMS index 27. This current user is triggering something that's causing the problem. What's the problem here? Let's go back to the index file and just make sure. Root so our database stuff is not quite working for some reason with these environment variables, and I'm not sure why at this point. 127.0.0.1. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to return some of these one at a time until we find one that breaks it. And I'm going to remove all of this. So we know the root dir was working. Let's try the db host. I'm going to remove that, save it, refresh, and that one's a problem. Let me put that back and remove here, save that, and let's put the db name here, save it. Wait a minute. So we got this format exception problem here. So we got a few issues to work out here. First and foremost, I think it has to do with our autoloader not loading these other classes with this exception. So let's go now and try to solve that one little piece at a time here. Now, admittedly, I didn't work through this ahead of time because I wanted for us to do the debugging of this together. But we need to load all of this stuff in. So I think what we'll do here is let's see. We almost have to. All right, here's what we'll do. If this file exists here, we'll do that, and then we're going to do an else if, and then we're going to say file exists our parts class name. Then what we're going to do here is, and this is kind of a quick and dirty thing here, so we're going to do if file exists, and then we're going to add our proot.ds and this was in our lib.ds .env .ds I think that was called exception. exception, and then we're going to put on the .ds.class, and then we'll concatenate on .php. We'll save that. I'm going to move this over here so that you can see more of that file here. So in the index, here's what I've done. It's going to try to load in our original path based upon our namespace. If it doesn't exist, it's going to do this other check, and then what we'll say here is include, and this is going to be messy, dang it. I guess for now, just copy all of this. I don't like doing that, but let's see if that takes care of that error. And dang it, what's the problem here? Root.ds lib.env exception ds class I'm going to do a var dump here, and we'll put in class name, core DB. So here's where it's getting to. Symfony component .env format exception. So we have the format exception right here. Okay, so let's take this down a different way. And what we're going to do is we're going to say see, we were kind of going off of this like this before, but we need some sort of autoloader. And I don't think they have an autoloader. So we're going to have to figure out that path ourselves. And I guess what we'll do, you know, I don't want to waste a lot of time with this. So what we're going to do is just do it the super easy way. And we're actually just going to copy this right here. And this is, I don't like this. I'll admit that right now, I don't like this. I just don't want to spend the time to confuse you guys or anything like that. So we're just gonna we're just gonna add all these files manually that it could use. And so we're gonna add exception, and then we're gonna add the exception interface. .php. All right, and then I'm gonna copy this, and we're just gonna do this on down the line. This one's going to be format. Dang it! What the heck? This one would be format exception then we'll have format exception context, and then we're going to have a path exception All right, so that loads in all of the files that we loaded. Now I don't like doing that manually, it's dumb. But now we can see permission denied. Why would the permission be not denied here? So let's go, let's see what happens. I'm gonna, inside the terminal here, let's do an ls-la. I think I know what the problem is. This file, this directory right here is not readable for some reason. Jeez. Let's do this. Let's go ahead and navigate. So if I do a print working directory, make sure you go to this place here with our lib.env here, and we're going to do a change mod -r, capital R, and let's do 655, and we're going to do /exception. All right, so we'll do sudo change mod -r 655 /exception. Put in my password, and then we'll do a ls-la. All right, let's see if that cleans that up. Missing quote at the end of line 2 on our .env, and that is true. I don't know how that got deleted. All right, whew. All right, geez, so there's a permission issue from copying our files in, so you guys will have to fix that. But let's go back now to moving these back over, and let's just, I'm gonna split right and go back to our config file here, and let me so here after db name, let's do db host equals, and this 127.0.0.1, we'll do db user equals root, db password equals an empty string, and then we're going to do login cookie name equals, and I'm going to copy my cookie string here. You could make up a new one, but then any cookies that are set on browsers would just break. So I'm going to get rid of that right there, save it, go back here and refresh, and we still got problems. What is the problem here? We know it worked with the DB name. I guess let's just go back to adding some of these one at a time. I'm going to get rid of the host here. And we will get rid of the password and the user. Access denied for user at localhost. So it's not getting this DB user for some reason. Oh, I didn't save. I'm gonna get rid of this var dump here for now. Just gonna clean this up. Access not denied for our user, so it's not getting the user from this env. Let me try a couple things. db post 127.0.0.1. Save that. Let me go here, delete this database stuff. And then let's go back to the index, and after this page is loaded, let's do our h dump and die. And let's see about our $_env. Let's just see what's in here. Comment that out for now. Oh, order of operations. So this .env stuff's not being loaded till after the current user, so it's trying to load the database stuff before we have loaded this stuff. So all we have to do is move this up to the top here. I'm sorry for that, and if you guys noticed that, good on you. So if I refresh, we're good there. Let me go and let's get rid of this dump and die. There we go. Man alive. So it was all about where I decided to load this env file, and it was trying to connect to the database through this function before it loaded this file in. So it didn't have the database user information, but this is all working correctly now. And so now we can confidently push our GitHub stuff, knowing that there's no sensitive information in our config directly, and it's all stored in the .env file, which we have added to our gitignore file, and this will not go into our code repository, so future developers or anything like that would not have access to this. So what we would need to do is probably create like an example one that had information for the developer to figure out this file for themselves when they first load the page. And then we need to, on our live servers, we would need to make sure we have a .env file that has all of the credentials for the live server there. And now that takes care of differences between environments, which is why, you know, environment variables make sense. And it also allows us to store sensitive information not in our code base, but rather on our local machines and on our live servers. And if they got access to that, we'd be in trouble anyway, so we're not too worried about that. But this will give us another level of security. So I hope that makes sense. I hope you guys learned something in this video, and I hope that me messing around and doing some debugging wasn't very frustrating for you, and rather that you learned something from watching me debug. Because I tell you the truth, when you are developing, you spend very little time actually coding and a lot of time doing what I just did. That's normal. That is part of the process of development. And so I want you guys to get used to that. And I realized that my microphone wasn't moved into the ideal place, so the sound is probably a little bad in this video. But anyways, I'm gonna get off here. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope that you've learned something. Please comment, like, subscribe. Go to freeskills.life if you'd like some sweet merch. I'm gonna go eat because I'm hangry. So let's go ahead and push this up on GitHub real quick. So let me do git status, and actually I'm going to do a pwd to make sure I'm in the right place. And you can see that if I do git status here, you don't see that .env file in here to be staged, because it won't be staged because it lives in our .gitignore. So now if I go to git add, unable, my gosh, more problems with these stupid. Oh, I see. is complaining about the permissions. Oh my gosh. Let me just double check something real quick. cd lib / .env ls-la cd exception sudo change mod -r, let's do 755 exception ls-la cd exception ls-la. All right, get status, get add, there we go, get status again, good deal. We're going to do get commit. We're going to call this environment variables. Get push, get status, and we'll do get checkout main, get merge v37, get push. Okay, so now that we've done that, I'm going to end the video, and in the next video we're going to do another supplemental video where we add this actually to a live server, because I had a lot of requests for that, because maybe that's something you've never done. So we're going to get a cheap live server, and we're going to put everything up, and we're going to have this working live. So I will see you in that video.